All right. Hello, everybody. Moritz here, back with another video. Today I have on the show Dr. Dan, or if you go by his pseudonym, Supra Librix, and he'll explain to us the meaning of that word in a second. But today I want to talk with Dan about his tool, which is an application of a theory that he's developed over the past 2 years or so in collaboration with a bunch of other people. And the way that I thought we could start off this conversation is by taking a look at this graph, this sort of 2x2, and then seeing how the tool could assist us in making sense of this. And so I'll just briefly go over what we're looking at here. But first, why don't you introduce yourself for a moment, Dan, and tell us who you are and what you're doing.
Hi, yeah, I'm just a guy in the woods trying to make sense of the craziness out there. So that's where I started from, and I got it all worked out. So I'm just waiting for everybody to catch up.
Great. Well, I certainly like the confidence. Let's see whether the tool holds up in this instant. So the 2x2 we're looking at here came out of a conversation I had with a friend of mine, James Krieger, as you see here on the sidebar. And basically, I plot here signal latency on the y-axis and trust on the x-axis. And the idea is that there is something that happens when you have trust, which allows information, resources, and all kinds of other things to flow easily between two distinguishable entities, like two people. And when that trust isn't there, when you're on the other side, sort of directly opposite, then those things don't flow, and instead you actually turn your mode from sharing to a mutual investment to fighting or trying to get something from each other, basically disintegrating the opposing system or person. And so then latency came from this conversation with James, where we were discussing what happens, what are the factors at play in this phenomenon of flow, of people being very good at what they're doing and experiencing on the personal level, on the sort of consciousness or felt experience level, this flow experience where everything just works and you're sort of at the edge of your capacity, your skill level, you're expanding beyond it a little bit, and at the same time you're extremely involved in what you're doing, and time seems to both stand still and flow very quickly at the same time. And so signal latency is the way that I describe this to people around me when we're discussing it, which is in activities where the latency of stimulus that's coming at me and the response I can formulate to it, to respond to it, is very low. If the latency between those two things is very low, then then flow becomes very possible, very easy, and you can perform without questioning your performance. Every single stimulus is easily interpretable and easily answerable through a corresponding action. And so when the latency between the stimulus, the signal that you're receiving, and the response that you can formulate to it is very high, then you have this opposite phenomenon, which is sort of analysis paralysis, this recursion of thought turning on itself, trying to find the proper way to respond to something that's hitting your senses, your perception, your awareness, your consciousness, and then sometimes getting stuck in that because you don't have a way to actually resolve it. And so those are sort of the two axes here. And so the phenomena I've identified sort of just as a very first approximation are low latency and high trust being dance. When you dance, you can't just analyze the rhythm all the time. You have to simply act. You have to perform the moves and get good at that. At least that was the case for me. It really brought me out of my head and into my body. And then you have on the upper hand, on the left, you have fighting as the example for low trust and low latency, where you can, in a fight where you're physically fighting with somebody, you have to respond immediately. You can't analyze things to death. And you also have low trust. You actually literally don't trust this person, which is why you're fighting. And on the lower right, we have what I first termed investment, which is basically you have high trust towards somebody, and there's an incentive to want the best for them, and for them to want the best for you. But the time scale on which the payoff of that actually comes in is pretty high. So the latency between the action and the payoff of it, or the signal coming to you and then your ability to respond to it is pretty high. And then my question was, what comes into the lower left? Because I wasn't immediately seeing a good evocative term to archetype that. And then people responded with all kinds of suggestions. And it's quite funny to me how these suggestions reveal more about the people actually than they do about the theory that I'm presenting. I'll just show you some suggestions that we had here. We had deceive or deception. We had revenge, stealing, chaos. We have gossip, tithe, sabotage, scream, cry, social distancing. And so all kinds of weird and sometimes funny ones, but my favorite ones so far have been prognostication, because it's basically, it's this phenomenon that you have, okay, you don't know about the future, and there's low latency between you assessing something and then knowing whether it's actually correct. So you have to wait until the future actually comes to pass for you to test whether your assumption was correct. And then also you have low trust, meaning that you can't trust your own prognostication that much, and you also, the lower the trust is, the more you want a complete enough picture about the future in order to feel safe in acting. And then the second one that I find is even better is by James himself, which is rent seeking. Basically trying to get a benefit out of somebody else, hence low trust, and then the latency being relatively high in the sense that it's not an immediate thing like stealing, where I get it from you right in this instant, but it's something that's longer term and it requires effort, and it pays off in the longer term. So those were some of the answers we got to this prompt, let's say, this query. And then Dan actually responded with a quite interesting graph here. And I want to put that front and center for a moment. And maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, well, actually, after looking at it, I'm not sure that's the right answer, because the way you framed it, it's a little bit hard to square those. But anyway, that's why I want to do it with you. Basically, what you do, you take any parameters you want to put, you just lay it onto the graph. So, for example, you want the speed of trust, right? That's something you're measuring. Is that right?
Not exactly speed of trust, but yeah, the intersection between the latency and the trust thing. Actually, one thing that I feel after now seeing all these responses is exactly because they are so noisy or so different from each other, the actual query wasn't well formulated. So,
right. Well, you're putting together disparate terms there, but let me show you what I mean. So what you do is you put the ideal is what you put in the top right, whatever it is, whatever you think is the best, that's what you put in the top. So if you're talking about like dancing, you need instantaneous, zero latency and high trust, right? So zero latency, high trust. Now I'm putting it on mine.
Okay, I'll let you share your screen.
Yeah, let me share mine. Oh, it says I am already.
Yes, great, go on.
So we'll put dancing. So dancing is instantaneous trust, it's simultaneous. You trust each other.
And before you go on, like briefly recap, please, for the audience, what we're looking at here with the graph.
Yes, what this is, it's any experience can be defined by this. You have a binary decision, white, black and white, something is yes or no, it exists, does it not exist, those kind of things. And then you have the infinite variability between the two, and from infinitely bad to infinitely good. So it encompasses reality. However you picture reality, well, it fits in this box. Everything either is or it isn't, and it is either good or it's bad or something in between.
Right.
So neutral would be in the middle category. This is just something of not much value. So you use that as the base template, and then you throw things onto the axes that whatever you'd like, and you can layer them on top of each other. Well, once you get good at it, it's a pretty clever little tool. But and I need help developing the templates, because everyone will have a different template.
But and what are the circle and the square?
Okay, circle is what's in your head or the intent. It's the meaning, and then the square is the physical action.
Right.
So in physical terms, you think about it, there's nothing but time and energy. This could be time, this could be energy. It varies according to the word, but everything boils down to one of those two variables in an infinite array somewhere, and the differential between them. So
Right.
for example, dancing would be, okay, if it's just two people dancing, then you are sharing your time and energy with someone else. There's no latency, because if there was, you wouldn't be dancing, you'd be falling down on the floor, right?
Right.
So assuming you're dancing, then it'd be somewhere in there. Assuming you like dancing, it would
Right.
be there, okay? If you like dancing. Now for me, it would be this. Yeah, I'll go dance with you, but I got no interest in this whatsoever. It causes me physical pain to spend this time.
Right.
Okay, that's dancing for me. But some people love it. So this is people that like dancing.
So I want to briefly get a lesson that I'm already getting from this right now, which is that actually the difference between, for example, you want dancing and me dancing is that your head would be on the lower left because you are not competent in dancing and you don't like moving your body in that way, at least at this current state in your life. For me, for example, I would like dancing because I am competent in it, because I have trained, and so those things are closer together. So that's one of the differences here.
Yes, yes. So in your head, you know how to, you have the coordination, you have, that would be your skill set would be in your head.
Right.
Me, I haven't developed the skill set and I have no interest. So to do it, I don't like it.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. So that's in your head, and this is with your body. So now some people could be really, really good dancers, but not like it. You know,
Right.
that works too. So anyway, assuming you like dancing, this is dancing. You're sharing an experience with someone. So this is from your personal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is there, you're enjoying it. Your head is there, you're enjoying it. Low latency, they're very close together. So the distance between the square and the circle, that could be seen as the latency right there. The shorter that line, the less. I shouldn't say that, because when you're dancing, like I said, even if you hate it,
Right.
that's not an enjoyable experience
Right.
for the person.
Right. But you could actually be competent at it. There are extenuating factors for this.
Yeah. So what was the other one? Dancing. And what was the other one?
Fighting.
Fighting. So fighting.
Maybe leave dancing there and put fighting on the right if that's possible.
Yeah. Okay. Good idea. Now fighting, assuming this is a serious, you know, you get in a fight and you're worried for your life, you know, your head is mad and your body, and this is where you are at the bottom, the other, if it's just two people, you are at the bottom, the other person is in white. So it's, you pick a color, like chess kind of. So you are black, you are always black, and white is either the other, if you're talking about two people, it's the other person. If you're talking about anything else, it's whatever else there is, the sum of your frame, whatever frame you're in, it's the sum of your frame. So if you're fighting someone else, all your energy is directed towards them in a fight, and it's in the red zone because you're trying to keep from being killed. So this would be a fight. You're mad, you're angry, and your body is stressed out. It's everything's bad, trying to take out the other person. So that's a worst case scenario of a fight.
And this, yeah, exactly, worst case scenario, which is the operative word here, because if you are extremely competent at fighting and you're fighting somebody who isn't at all, then you're not going to be necessarily in that state of mind of angriness, because you're going to be more capable and more expecting that it'll be easy to do it.
Right. So that would be someone like this, like someone who's a, you know, Taekwondo professional. They're right here, and that person could be dead. You could slide them right off the screen. I would just take them a couple of kicks and they're done.
Right.
And this person, they wouldn't even break a sweat, right?
Right.
So
briefly for comprehension here, because right now you're using the square as directed towards another person. Does that mean it's not representing the other person? It's just the direction in which your activity is generated.
That's right.
Directed.
Yeah. So the time is in your head. I'm totally cool kicking this guy's butt, or I'm stressed out, I'm fighting for my life. That's the difference between this and this.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so that's fight.
Right.
You know, bad fighting there, where you've met your match and you're fighting for your life. That's a fight.
Right. And then we can go and replace dance with the next one, which would be, the way I termed it, would be investment.
Investment. Okay, so now investment, that's a long-term dance, right?
Right.
but it costs you money. So there's a cost to you physically. So you could picture this, we're talking in monetary terms now.
Right.
So investment means you're taking a loss, or it's an opportunity cost. So
Right.
it's in the negative. It doesn't cost you nothing. If it costs you nothing, it's green. That means there's zero monetary or physical cost.
Right.
So an investment means I'm spending money. I could have spent it right now, but I'm not. I'm putting it away. I'm saving a lot of money. I could have bought a new car. Nope, I'm putting it in the bank or whatever. Hopefully not in the bank. It's the worst place. But you invest money. So that's a negative for you physically, monetarily. Well, we'll talk just monetarily because that's all it is right now. So it's a monetary negative. And now you kind of switch your brain around here. So what you're looking for, you're calculating the Q slope of that money. So you anticipate over the future. Now,
that's an interesting question now, because there's no single point that you can put this, because the motivation for doing the investment could be multiple. So you could have.
But I tell you don't want over time. You don't want it here, right? You expect that will grow. You'll at least break even, and maybe make more money. If it's just an investment in yourself, like learning a new skill. This would be investing in learning how to make whatever. Learn a new skill right there. Learn how to.
But so in this case here, the two icons that are on the top right and the bottom left, which is sort of the one and the multiple, do they carry meaning in that sense here right now, or is it?
If it's all in the black, that's just you. No one sees it. That's just you studying alone or learning a new skill, practicing guitar, whatever it is. That's all for you. That has no value to anyone else other than yourself. Okay, so everything in the black is just for yourself.
Right.
Okay, so now an investment would mean, and see, this is what is an investment? What do you mean? Well, it depends on what you invest in, all sorts of things. An investment could be all sorts of things. It could be one where an investment in, you buy something that benefits the whole family.
Like clean energy, for example.
Clean energy. Okay, so let's invest in something. So what's the ideal? Well, the ideal is zero cost, infinite return.
Right.
That's the ideal investment. Doesn't cost you a dime, doesn't cost anyone a dime, zero cost, infinite return. Okay, so that's your best investment, but you can't do that. You got to make a sacrifice, but that's the slope that you want right there. Yes. So put that anywhere. That's an investment slope.
Yes.
The longer you stretch it out, well, that's higher risk, longer term. The longer that line is, the higher risk, or the greater the hope for return. Now you can't get
greater the difference between where it's at and where you want to be.
Yeah. So this would be a time differential here, and it's just in 2D, but for an idea maker. Now, if someone could draw this out in 3D, it'd be pretty slick looking. But right now, so you can think, it's a good thinking box. This is your time slope. I'm paying the price now for a better future. And if it's just for yourself, it's down in there. If it's for you and a couple of friends, if it's for everyone, it's up there. Whatever frame you set on this. Is that clear?
Yep, that's clear.
Okay, so investment would look like this. That would be like a typical slope for investment.
Right.
Better would be zero cost, but that's not really an investment. That's just kind of luck.
Right.
It didn't have anything to do with it. But if you're taking the expense of time and money, okay, you expect to get returns either for yourself or for many. Okay, so the investment, what's the opposite of an investment?
So the last remaining one is what we were wondering, with latency being high and trust being low. And so I think the best one that fits that currently is sort of rent seeking or extraction, let's say.
Okay, so now what I put was, I flipped it, I put the opposite. Which I don't know if that's the right answer there, because after I put that, I thought, well, I'm not sure if that's what he was thinking. But like you said, it was an interesting question because it had all sorts of interpretations.
Right.
But this is the opposite of an investment. This is where your time and energy.
Put it back to the investment and put the next one to the right, please.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there's a expensive but good investment. So the opposite, and that's where I'm not sure if that's what we're looking for, not the opposite, but the opposite of an expensive but good investment would be a
long-term loss. Well, it depends what frame you put yourself in, the one on the receiving end of it or the one on the perpetrating end of it, in a sense.
Yeah, that's right. So pick one. You gotta figure out what you're asking first.
Right. So then I would say it would be let's do from the one who's perpetrating it.
The investor.
No, the one who's benefiting here, who's basically well, actually, let's go with your first, so the opposite of the investment. Just go with that for now, like the worst.
Okay. For that would be if you just swap them. See, this is what's nice about it. You just swap the symbols and just see what comes into your head from that. This is where I see it as a little brainstorming tool.
Right.
Well, what is that? That is something that you don't like. You really, really don't like it, but other people benefit a lot. So that's really, really good for people, but you're not happy doing it. So that's me dancing. Except that would be more like this, because they wouldn't want to see it either.
Right.
Okay, so that's the opposite of investment, is you're not happy, but other people are. So what now? Those other people will be happy with this. If they don't know you, they benefit. That's a physical, measurable benefit to these people, but you're not happy about it.
And so in this case, then the question would be, for example, like what is your relationship to that state? Is it sort of some kind of recursion here, actually, which is, do you feel good about, though, that others also benefit from it, even though you yourself don't like doing it, which is like two different things?
Well, if you don't, it doesn't bother you at all, that's there. Oh yeah, no problem.
Right.
Glad to help.
But there's a distinction here between your state of mind and the cost it imposes upon you.
Right, and that's it's complex, and everyone has mixed emotions about everything. But to nail it down for what you're trying to say to communicate to someone else, I don't like helping people. Right. I don't mind at all. I love helping people. Right. You see what I mean?
Right, and I guess this shows now the limit of this singular tool. Like, this is where we would want to have two actors sort of simultaneously on here to show the difference, or to have like at least some kind of comparison between present and future, all those kind of things.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Turn this into a live 3D model. It'd be amazing. So I'm working on it.
And so then we did now the opposite of investment, basically like you suffering, or your orientation being opposite to beneficence, let's say, but the actual effect of what you're doing being very good for everybody involved.
Right.
Now, whether you're including that or not, we can leave that out for the moment. But now I want to get back to the trust versus latency thing. So if we take, for example, the idea of rent seeking, which I think is a good fit for that lower left quadrant, at least in the current formulation of it, it would be a long-term orientation, because rent seeking, of course, is an ongoing thing where you're benefiting from somebody else's suffering, or from somebody else's like taking a cost, basically. You're extracting. Yes. So that would be an orientation here, let's say in the mind, would be towards yourself and not towards others. And so roughly where the circle is right now is approximately correct. Is that right?
I think so. Let me give you an example. I've got some real estate myself. So for me,
I'm not saying like investment. I'm saying rent seeking, which is an adversarial thing here, where you're trying to extract from somebody and don't have their interests in mind. Right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that would be it right here. So the rent seeker would be up here. This is the person who's being whose services are being rendered. So it's in the purple for them because they're benefiting. So this is, for example,
no, but isn't the action itself just benefiting them? So the actual actual activity is all about benefiting themselves. Like, how can I extract the maximum I can from others? It's not beneficial to others, and so it should be actually on the left. Let me briefly explain the idea of rent seeking a bit more. I think we're having a problem of terminology here.
Yes,
So
yes.
rent seeking, at least in political science, describes the act of seeking to establish a relationship with an entity, for example, the government, where the entity, where you benefit from the entity providing you resources, but you want to not provide anything in return. You want to just extract, like a parasite, basically.
Okay, so what you want is you want things for good things for yourself, and you don't care where they come from.
Right.
So, well, see, this is just you. I need another model here, and I'm working on.
I assume, like, I would say, like, my intuition tells me that the circle should move to the left and into the red, because I'm focused just on myself. I'm not actually focused on others.
Yeah, but that would mean yourself is unhappy.
Oh, okay, I see.
You know what I mean? That's, no matter what, that's bad. If you're talking about yourself, that's bad, that's good, that's average.
Right.
So if you're talking about the percent, if you're the worker,
right,
then you would be providing benefit for the rent seeker. Okay, so that's where it goes by default, or you're not going to be working for them. If they don't like it, you're fired, right? So you have to be somewhere along here. You start getting to here, that's where you get fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you provide a benefit for other people, a negative benefit, well, they're not going to hire you. So this is the only place that you can offer your services, is in here, this zone.
Right. But the rent-seeking relationship is one where there's no, it's more like a managing the perception of somebody else, or exerting power over them.
Yes, exactly. So they don't care where your head is. Just make sure the square is here. That's all they care about, right? Right. They want the production. This is the production. This is you doing the producing. This is what you think about doing your producing. And your head can be anywhere here. As long as you're up here, you still got a job, right? As soon as you...
I don't know about the job thing, because I'm thinking in terms of like somebody who's trying to extract from a larger system or from somebody else. So think of it as a parasite.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking you're the host. They're the parasite, you're the host. So you are black. They are the parasite, you are the host. That means your energy goes towards them, and it's good. Or they don't want you, right? They would find another host. If you weren't providing a benefit, they'd find another host.
Right. If we're talking now from the perspective of the host, yes.
Yeah.
And from the perspective, okay, let's leave that like it is for the host, and let's put it on the left, what it would look like for the parasite.
So the parasite would be...
On the entire left side of the screen, the other instance, not where the investment is currently. Let's name on the right the host, and let's name on the left the parasite, the two graphs.
Good idea. Host, parasite.
Okay, that works.
Okay, so the parasite is happy, right?
Yes. Very. And the energy is on their own level.
Would be 0, right? If they're, or now this is, how complex a system do you want to talk about here? But if you're talking about someone that just doesn't have to do anything, they made an investment or whatever, they bought something, and they're just taking the profit from something, physically, they don't have to do anything. They're just happy with the investment.
Right. Right. Great.
So the parasite is just, hey, no problem.
Right.
All good.
It gets free energy for no expenditure, in a sense.
That's right. Yeah. No physical or monetary expense. Now you can argue that, but
it works on a certain time scale, but not forever.
Right. Okay. So for the host, now physical, not happy.
Yes.
Or I should say how they feel are not happy, but they have to provide for the parasite, or the parasite's going to go someplace else. If you die, they don't need you. So you have to be in here, because if you're over here, well, parasite has no use for you at all, right? If you die, there's no parasite, there's no host. They're both gone.
Right, so your expenditure of energy, well, this is actually where it gets interesting, because your expenditure of energy is negative. Like you're actually expending energy, but you're not even seeing it. You're not even necessarily seeing the rent seeking unless you're aware of it, in which case you're trying to sever the relationship, right?
Right.
So let's assume the state where you're not aware of what's happening, and so actually your state of mind is in positive or whatever it is in that current moment because you're not aware of what's happening. But your energy expenditure is actually like you are expending energy, so it is toward the left of the screen.
I tell you what. Let me show you this. This square has to match up with this guy. This guy is as happy as this square is. It's the same color as this square. You see what I mean? If this guy, he's not a great worker, well, that means it doesn't matter what you think you're doing. That's this guy's perception over here. So it'll line up vertically in the same color band. Does that make sense to you? If this guy is this happy, he thinks you're doing this. It doesn't matter what you think. This guy thinks you're doing that. This guy's really happy.
See, this is, I guess, where the difficulty of matching perception and actual physical processes comes in.
Yeah.
Because it's not one-to-one, and people can incorrectly assess the actual effects and the physical process at play.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's just you in your head, so this is you as the
host.
You know, some people are really, really happy doing whatever, right? Now the parasite, they're happy as can be. No cost, they're fine.
Right.
I'll benefit from you here. So they're physically benefiting.
And they're happy about it. So actually the circle should be closer to the right?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, yeah. When you get two interacting here, it gets a little bit tricky, and I got to make another model that'll make this clearer. But
so yeah, maybe explain what is the breakdown we're experiencing here right now, and what would help us with an elaboration of this model.
Okay, so the parasite, that's the body of the parasite. The body is physically benefiting from being a parasite, so it's in here somewhere, somewhere along here. Okay, now if you're a parasite, it's all for you. You aren't giving any benefit to the other. It's all for you. So it's all black.
Right.
You're strictly parasitic. That's it. There's no benefit to anybody else. It's just for you. But it's great for you being a parasite.
Right.
Now, how do you feel about being a parasite? How do you feel about getting benefit from someone else? So that square is not from your effort. It's from someone else's effort that you're in that position.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay. Now, how you feel about it, that's in your own head. This would be more of you're receiving a physical benefit for no mental cost. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to worry. You don't have to organize. None of that.
Right. You feel pretty secure about it, and you're feeling good that it's happening. And if you, for example, if you're constantly worrying about being found out and sort of you're trying to manage the perception of the others, then it might be in a different state.
Right, yeah. So if you feel bad about being a parasite, it's over here.
Right, that could also be guilt, actually.
What's that?
That could also be guilt.
Yes, yeah, guilt. Like I said, any negative feeling, whatever word you want to put on it, your head is in a bad spot because, oh yeah, I realize that I'm taking from others without giving back.
Right.
Okay? So I don't worry about a thing. So that's the definition of a parasite, is that, well, that's just normal for a parasite. You wouldn't call it a parasite if they were thinking about it, right?
That's great. Okay, and now one more time, the host.
So the host, now depending on the host might not even know it, right? So, I mean, think of it as a horse. A horse might have a fly biting it.
Right.
And it's hurting their body.
Right.
It should be like this. It's giving blood to the
fly. A small
horse
cost, though.
Doesn't even know it, right?
It's a small cost, though. It's not a lot of energy.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is the scale, of course. If you're just talking about these two items, you have host and parasite. This would be all to the parasite. This would be all to the host.
Okay. So it's not talking about the quantity of it, but it's more talking about the directionality of it.
Yes. In this case, this whole frame is just two items. That's it. The host and the parasite. So
this is something that's interesting, because that, to me, describes that anywhere on the spectrum, on the color spectrum, in this particular instance, you will have some kind of reciprocal relationship, even if it's bad in one direction and good in the other. But there is some kind of interaction happening. In this case, where the squares are both firmly in opposite corners, there's like a one-sided interaction in a sense, at least as far as awareness goes.
Yeah, this is the host not either not knowing or not worrying about it. So they're in a neutral zone.
And in a sense, we can see this from the slope itself, because the cone of perspective from the individual, or the slopes are pointing in different directions, right? Like the slope for the parasite is sort of positive and to the right. The slope for the host is negative and to the left from the sort of consciousness or lived awareness down to actually the physical process.
Yes. Yeah. So now if you start feeling it, well, you get here.
Right.
Hey, I don't want that happening anymore. How do I stop it?
Right.
So what you do, you always want your body to be here somewhere. You know, that's comfortable, that's nice. You're talking about a work, and now exercise, of course, you want to be going back and forth. You know, you work hard, then you build up, or you vibrate there with exercise.
Right.
But if you're talking about an ongoing relationship or parasitic relationship, for you personally, it's hurting you, but for the other person, they're benefiting.
Right. Great. I think we've got a good grasp of this particular example now, and now we can go to your presentation, and maybe you can like briefly take us through that. I think we got a good operational understanding of it. It's pretty cool, actually. We jumped into this quicker and before we actually did an explanation of the model. That's good.
Yeah. It's so simple that, but it's the complexity is what you bring to it. But
right. But what I'm learning here is that it requires iteration over time, sort of interaction to anchor it into somebody's mind rather than dumping.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you want to show up the presentation?
Let me find the other.
There you go.
Now this is the deep stuff here. Did you want to go into this
Yes, please.
Civilization itself?
Yes.
Okay. So first thing to recognize is everything's a network, and there's only 3 kinds or something like that. And they're all iterations of basically this model. You have a centralized network, so that's a server and a whole bunch of clients. Then you have decentralized, where you have multiple servers, and the clients don't depend on one single point. If one point failed, the others would still be there intact, that kind of thing. Then you have distributed, where they're all independent but connected. So what's the best? Well, it depends. It depends on what you do. If it's an expensive resource, this is what you want, because it doesn't make sense for every person to incur that expense if one can do it enough for everything. So that's the idea, like power stations. Costs so much to put in a hydroelectric dam, and limited locations. Not everyone can have their own hydroelectric dam, of course not. So you build one big one and feed a whole bunch of people with that electricity. This would be more like, well, smaller.
It's like a hub and spoke system, like a logistics network.
Yeah. So this is a little more decentralized, where this wouldn't be hydroelectric. This would be, well, maybe some natural gas stations, and each one would be much more powerful.
This would be regular gas stations, basically on the normal
gasoline
infrastructure.
Like gasoline, right? Petrol.
Yeah.
And this would be, well, everyone has their own generator at home. Everyone can make their own electricity all by themselves.
Right.
So those are the 3 models, and you keep those in mind, and it helps through whatever else you do. So what I did, I mapped out, reminding yourself you have centralized, decentralized, and distributed. If you look at civilization itself, well, it's all the same thing. So map that to ideological civilization. What's interesting is you find words that mean a certain thing, But then when it plays out in real life, well, they don't come out to be exactly the same thing that people think when they see the word. So right here, now you start out it's the same map underneath. So you want the best case scenario up top, which means, now here's where it gets a little tricky here. Ix. The variable Ix in this case means physical power. So pick a power, any power, but we're talking about, if you want to talk about
Violence.
Well, what's physical power? Well, that's a gun or a sword or a cannon, a tank. So how many people have tanks? How many people have, now what's the most powerful one there is? A nuclear bomb. Well, does everyone have one? Do you want everyone to have a nuclear bomb? Probably not. So we don't want that up here. Where do we want nuclear bombs? Well, very, very few. Ideally 0, but they're there. We got them. So you want the least number possible. So nuclear bombs, you want them over to here. So now in this case, red and blue, they aren't necessarily bad and good anymore. What this is, it's the range of what's possible. So you have concentrated. Concentrated power is in the red, and distributed power is in the purple. Now, moral authority is who gets to set the laws, who says what's right and wrong. At the very bottom is one person says this is what's right. At the top, everybody chooses what's right on their own. There's no authority because everyone is their own authority of what they do. So that would be perfect equality. Everyone has everyone's ideas, that's fine. So kind of our ideal is everyone has the same physical power, ideally no nukes at all, and everybody just gets along. So that's the ideal. And nobody tells each other what to do because everybody knows what to do and they know how to get along. So that's your ideal, is everybody just gets along and everybody knows what to do. Of course, that doesn't happen, but that would be anarchy. Now, here's and anarchy has its own bad connotation just because that doesn't work out well, generally speaking. So, but the word itself means distributed power, meaning everybody has the same power, they're just there, and equality. Everyone, there's no one that tells another person what to do because that would not be anarchy if they did. So anarchy is put in that top right-hand corner, meaning distributed power and equal moral authority over each other. That is none. Throw in the word communism, and that's the same thing. The word means that. It means everybody gets along, from everyone according to his need, to each according to their, from everyone from their ability to according to their need. Right. Well, that's communism. That's anarchy.
But that's the aspirational communism.
Right, so that's the word. Now, does that happen in real life? Well, they use the word, but when you say communism in the world instead of in your mind, well, you just see a dictatorship and an oligarchy and, just normal. But the word itself is great. So that's that cognitive dissonance that we find just in the whole world now, is the word itself, communism, has been usurped by people that don't practice it. And the word's still used. I don't know why. It's just there. Just bad habit, I guess. Socialism will be something in between where, well, not everybody's equal because some people have to run the place. Some people have to set the laws. Some people have to enforce the laws. Democracy is somewhere in between where not everybody gets to say because you don't have kids voting. You have to be an adult. Maybe you have to be a certain age. You have your own laws for what you want to call democracy. Republic, it stretches a little bit more, closer down. You don't have as many people. So people elect other people. So that would be the decentralized model. So this would be your monarchy. Oops. That's your monarchy. That would be kind of a republic. And that would be the anarchy. And I threw communism in there just to troll people, basically. But it's important to know that. Dictatorship and monarchy, that would be singular. Aristocracy, a dictator, that would be one person saying what's right and wrong, and he has all the power of life and death over everyone else. So that would be this model right here. That's your centralized government. Now what's interesting here is what you call the right and the left the right leans toward fascism, towards concentrated power in few hands, and the left leans toward peace, love, and happiness. Everybody get along. So on the map itself, they're flipped from left to right. But if you map it out like this, it makes analysis much easier.
I would say that it's interesting because it obscures a lot of dimensions. And one of them is, for example, the right. I think that drive towards fascism, for example, comes from a reaction towards the sort of the aspirational communism that actually in practice is just another power center trying to usurp the existing one, and using the language of everybody should be equal and have the same rights and so on to drive the action, basically. And also, in this case of the centralization of the right as the power center, or like the aristocracy or monarchy, that is sort of on the level of moral authority and of physical power partially, but it's more like an integrated hierarchical structure where there's actually support for that, not only power over, because actually monarchs tend to get cut if they don't serve the people in some way, shape, or form. So it obscures some dimensions here. I just want to make sure that we catch that.
Yes. So yeah, it's and most of that is in your head, right? So basically, it comes down to.
I'll leave that uncommented, but go on.
Yeah. Everyone should shut up and do what I say always. Everyone flips between these two, and everyone is equal when we all love each other. This is sort of the ideal. Everybody wants that. But at the same time, you also want that. If everyone just shut up and be happy, then we'd have peace, right? So that's what a monarch does. As long as everybody shuts up and does what he says, you have peace. Maybe the people aren't happy, but you have peace. So you get peace, you get control, you have law and order. You have order out of chaos. That might be another way to think of it. The closer it is to the bottom left corner, the more order there is. Now, happiness, that's something else, but you have control, you have order. Up here is the chaos. Up to the top right is chaos. Is it good chaos or bad chaos? Well, it depends on the situation, right? But that might be one way to think of it, is order to chaos. So the more ordered it is, the more you have to do whatever the laws are. If you want order, well, you got to follow specific rules.
I would actually say here that what I'm getting from this is that it's a differential between the confidence in your own perspective as matching reality, or as like producing the good, let's say.
Yep, good. So this goes back to my model of IX and IP. That's the external influence and personal influence there. But IX logic, that's rational. I have full control over my body. Now, this is at a personal level here. That's you and your brain talking to yourself. And IP rational, IP is irrational. That's when my mind is more valuable than my body, which, well, depending on what metaphysical view you have on reality. Without your body, you would not have a mind. Now, if you have other, religion and other belief systems have different ideas on that. But in this model, as far as what you're talking about, well, you don't have a mind if your body's dead. So that's an irrational thought, at least in the physical realm right now. So that's where people put on their own belief system as far as what they think happens after death. That's up to them. But for the models that we're talking about, it's just talking about right here and now. So we don't have to talk about that ever again.
Well, I want to briefly interject here. So
yeah,
for me, I wouldn't call it irrational precisely. I would probably call it something like, I have to sort of work a bit here to really articulate it properly, but
you can't define rational because it's different for every person, right?
Sure. But let me try and describe what my perspective on this is. So, because that's the whole point, like this, using this tool to produce insight and then to propagate that into all parts of ourselves, right?
Yes.
So what I'm getting from this is that rational, or on the bottom left here, we have this sense of the structure as it exists in the world or within me and my body, I have properly modeled, and because I've properly modeled it, I can affect action on a very granular, detailed level, and basically see the result of my willing be manifested in reality in some way. On the top right, as far as I'm getting it here currently, it's sort of more, there are forces at play in the world that supersede my ability to steer. And as a result, I am sort of thrown in this direction and in that direction. And so I don't have that control, or rather other people have that control over me. So yes. Again, it's a differential between those two things.
Yes, yes, good, like that. So where do you think we are on the spectrum of modern civilization? You know, people, are you somewhere in here, somewhere up here? Where are we? Well, that's where we are. I don't know what you think, but that's where we are. Algorithmically influenced, nuclear threatened, technocratic oligarchy. That's what we are. How many people run the world? How many corporations control almost everything you touch and do? You know, not very many. So wherever you think we are, well, we're really right down here. How many people, physical numbers of people, have direct control over the rest? Not very many. So wherever you think we are, that's the cognitive dissonance you're experiencing. That brings me to this. This is what I wanted to share with everybody. This is a new thought. So right here, this would be, well, I put America for an example. It doesn't matter. This is every place in the world, the same thing. But I'm using America only because we have a Second Amendment and some places don't have one. But so here we have IX, that's physical power. This is what's real. In that black box, that's what's real. This is reality. You got an oligarchy, you've got different people that tell everybody else what to do. And you're given the perception of freedom. And America, we're pretty lucky and mostly free. And most of the countries in Europe, and you're given the freedom. And I haven't traveled a lot in Asia or anything, but I imagine you're pretty free in a lot of those countries too, but depending on your situation. But the reality is there are very few people that get to tell everybody else what to do. And you have a limited range of what you can do before something happens to you. So this is what I find interesting. I'm going to talk about the left perceives this. They perceive that we are here. Now, with the words, this is very confusing, I think, but I think I can explain it out here. This is where the left would be comfortable. Their ideal is communism, everybody happy, working together. That's what they want. That's what everybody wants. So that's the stretch between where they are and where they think they are. That's a long stretch. So the longer that line is, the greater the dissonance between what's real and what they perceive as real. Now here's the slope that they see. They perceive that we're going towards a monarch, a dictator, and it's getting worse. And this one guy's going to take control over everything. That's the perception. Is that real? Well, they're close. The right. Now the right is more comfortable.
I want to say one more thing. So they might be close, but they might actually be wrong about who holds power or like what actually the dynamics are at play.
That's right. In that oligarchy, who's in there? There's all sorts of that's all the senators and you know, this doesn't
billionaires, secret shadow organizations, whatever. But yeah, that's to the right.
Yeah. So that's everybody you don't know. That's the black box of who's running the world right there. And there's all sorts of people in there. So who are you pointing to in there? Just one guy? Oh, it's more than one guy. Oh, it's several people. Oh, it's a whole bunch. Well, pick a target, any target. They're all their idea is sound there. The right is more comfortable in the middle zone. They know you can't go crazy and just have everybody doing whatever they want. Everybody wants that, but everybody knows it isn't real. But the words are deceptive. So the right is more on reality here as far as, look, you got to have some people running the place because you got crazy people everywhere. Everybody's a little bit crazy, and some people are crazier than others, and some people are very dangerous. So you can't have everybody making rules and everybody with a gun, okay? So you move that down somewhere in the middle here. That's where the right is comfortable. Democracy, republic, they're happy with that because people get to say stuff and they get some control over their destiny. So that's what they want. So on this map, what's interesting, the right, now this is where it's a little bit mind-bending, but I want you to understand it, is the perception is following the words. They think we're moving towards socialism and headed off towards communism and anarchy. And that's the last place they want to be. That stretch for them, that
on the word level, that's what they're perceiving, but actually the structural level would be a different one.
Yes, exactly. That's where I'm saying, but this is a mind-bending map here because the words are different, but the people are thinking alongside the words here.
Right, exactly.
You see what I mean? Reality is this. Reality is that black box. Okay. Now,
according to your perception,
well, it is what it is. This is reality.
According to you seeing it that way. I'm saying that because anything you say is produced from your perspective, as anything that I say for me. So
no one has ever produced any evidence to the contrary. How about that?
Sounds good. Let's continue.
But you're right.
Sorry, but I want to interject here. This is actually important because this exactly what I think the dissonance is between the way that you show up online and the way that the people that you interact with correspond with cognitive dissonance to what you're saying, or the dissonance that you're producing by your action, in a sense, which is you're making these bold statements and then you're seemingly not aware of how that is based on your perception, which could be faulty. And so that's where then the dissonance comes in, that people have hesitance to simply cede to your perspective and just accept at face value without knowing the process by which you arrive at that perspective. Does that make sense? So
yes,
this is what I also reacted to when you first got in touch with me, or we interacted online, which is a lot of bold statements and seemingly very little cognizance of what a mountain of evidence or what incredibly involved process would have to stand behind claims as large as this to back that up. And so I think that's where the proprietarian conversation really shines, and where the people in that community are extremely well attuned to, which is paying attention to the capacity of somebody to match their words with their actions and to not make claims before they have performed the work that allows them to say to others and warranty they've done their due diligence. So that's, I think, what the dissonance is here, actually.
Yes, no, and that's true. And then the problem is I didn't have a GUI for my TOEI. So,
all right, cool. Continue with the right.
Yep. Okay. So now, in reality, the right. This is following the words. So this is kind of a trick picture. But the right is actually attacking the same thing in reality.
Right.
They're going after the same thing. So the right is right and the left is right. They just argue about who they're pointing the finger to, basically, right?
Right.
So that's what it comes down to. Now, the problem I see with the left is everybody wants this, okay? Everybody wants peace, love, and happiness. Not those words, because those words confuse thought, but this is what we all want. Peace, love, and happiness. Everybody's happy. Everybody's equal. Everybody's got everything they need. That's what we want. That's utopia. Okay, everybody wants that. Stop talking about that. What we have is this. What we want is this. So that's a long stretch. Now, what I see the left doing is the people that say that are down here. So the people who say that are supposed to be moving this box up here somewhere. And they aren't doing that. So what they've ended up doing is saying, well, it's the other people in this box that are doing you wrong. Not us, it's everyone else. We're the only good ones because we're saying these words. We're saying the right words, but we're going to stay in this little box right here. And the left, and they've managed to have the left go after that same box, just the other people in the box. Just leave us alone. That's what they've managed to do with words.
That's essentially, just for the political science people in the room, let's say, that's basically Bertrand de Jouvenel's discussion of power as intra-elite competition primarily. So we have basically here, the elite is in that box. They are managing the entire process. They hold all the power. They have the structural advantages on their side, but they make everybody else think that the struggle is actually between all the people that are out there and the sort of distinct groups. And by doing so, a lot of energy gets put into the pitting against each other of those groups, rather than correctly identifying the sources of power and doing the difficult, boring, and long work to change the structural landscape of power.
Exactly. So, did I flip this thing over now? You see this, right?
Yes.
Back to my maps?
Yes.
Okay, so in reality, this is what's going on. So you have a lefty and you have a righty. Okay, so this is in the words, this is what the lefty wants. And this is what the righty wants. So everybody wants that. Everybody wants peace, love, and happiness. Now the righty thinks, well, certain number of people should have limited control. That's kind of where the right wants to be. Democracy, a republic, something in there is comfortable. And when it comes right down to it, if you need law and order, well, it's best if you just have one guy taking care of business. So that's a fascist, and that's a natural thought. If things are spiraling out of control, we'll find the right guy and have him take control. That's what you need. So that's obviously that's what you do. So that's why the right gets labeled as fascists and neo-Nazis and all that, is because if you need something done and done right, well, you got to do it yourself. And if you can't do it, find someone that thinks just like you. So you want that. If you want law and order, that's it. That's order. This is more chaos. That's order. So that's a natural tendency. Of course you want that. Now for the lefties, they want to be up here in socialism. They want everybody happy. So this is a comfort zone for a lefty. They're comfortable up there. When they discover that, oh no, I'm looking at these people, they're running the place, that dissonance between what they want and what is, they want this, they got this. The right wants this, they got this. So that stretch for the left is too far. That's why they're starting to fight now. Okay, they want this and they're realizing, wait a minute, this is not what we want. Oh, we want to be here, we're down here. And the right is thinking, we like it here, but we're not bad with it here either. They're okay with that stretch. Do you see what I mean? So the
right, or rather, they like their chances, or that they are, let's say, they are competent enough to handle their own security, their own safety in the case of like a non-beneficial environment. Let's say. I think this is another learning we can have, or another insight. I don't think it's an insight. It's actually pretty commonly accepted that I think the left wants that it's possible. No, wants that everybody is acting beneficially, and they don't like the idea of people not acting beneficially at large, and so
yes.
they gravitate away from seeing that as an actual given fact. And so the right, I think, is a bit more pessimistic about that. They see that
yes.
it's not possible, or at least not possible with extreme structural training and like moving over. Like there's a lot of energy involved in moving the whole structure, and it's required to move the whole structure in order to get to anything sustainable, because without it, you collapse immediately back into a previous state. And so the right feels more at home in that left side in that sense, because they are more realistic about how power works and how difficult it is to get it up, let's say, into the top right.
Yeah, perfect. So if you look at it this way, in this map, it makes total sense. Using the words now, so here's socialism, here's communism. Communism, the word means this. It's a word, not what people do, not what you see. The word means this. And if we had a democracy that was working well, that's okay. Look at that stretch. Look at that slope. You know, they want it to be better, but that's not that far. Oh, we have an oligarchy. I didn't know that. Well, they should have, but they didn't know that. Oh, and it's someone they don't like too. Well, then that just puts them in a bad space. So what? Because when they see reality, whether they think it's the right person or not, they realize, whoa, that puts them, now they're all mad. So what are they going to do? Well, they start fighting. So that's normal. Start fighting because they don't like it. So the right here is, on the other hand, they're fine with the state. Not fine, but there's other problems. But the right is comfortable with this one. With reality, if reality were here, the right would be just happy as can be. The left, they'd still want the communism. That would still be a stretch. But someone on the right, a conservative type, would know, look, that's chaos. We can't have chaos. We need law and order. So I'm comfortable up to this point. Give me a republic, give me a democracy, something along those lines I'm happy with. And his mind would be just fine. Maybe you want something better over here. Oh, I don't really like that. Whatever. There are ways to make things, there's always ways to make things better. But that's what you get the lefties for. They want things perfect. So if you're here, well, that's good enough because these people would be happy. And as long as there's law and order, well, these people would be happy too. They don't have to have everything perfect for them to think it's good enough, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
right.
So right now, for both of them, it's like this. The lefty is overextended and the righty, well, that's nothing. As far as government, this is a correction we're seeing with in America anyway. The right is comfortable with what's going on, at least politically, and the left is too far stretched out. That's the problem they're seeing.
Right, and so that generates a lot of energy in terms.
Yes, that cognitive dissonance causes pain in their brain, and then it's exemplified with violence because they tried voting, that didn't work. So now they see it going to pieces, going into fascism. So they're all mad.
So that's an interesting insight that I'm getting here, that also the longer the stretch between where your mind's at and where the actual dynamics are playing, or what the costs or what the pain is you're experiencing, the stronger, of course, the motivating force will be for you to become active in bringing that closer into alignment.
Well, watch this. What does this word mean? What is a word where you sacrifice physically for others? That's a hero.
Yeah, hero or a martyr.
Martyr, right? So you've got people martyring by tearing down statues. They're literally putting their life on the line because they want this. So for them, those are heroes. That's the whole movement. They're heroes to them. So no matter what you think, for them, they're heroes because they're really putting their time and effort into trying to change the system, fight the power. So that's a hero. That's that cognitive dissonance. There's no communication. There's nothing you can say. Well, why are you burning that down? Well, they're a hero. They're trying to change the system. They don't know how. They think burning a Starbucks down will help. That's all they got. They tried voting, that didn't work. So let's burn a Starbucks. They're heroes. And there's nothing you can do to change that. This is what's going on in their head, and whatever happens, they ignore anything bad that you perceive as bad.
Yeah.
So someone on the left, that's a heroic act. Words have lost their meaning.
What about the right?
Oops, sorry, what's that?
What about the right?
So the right, well, we got the same problem. So this is reality for everybody. Now the right, the way I see it is they're comfortable up here. So it's not that much of a stretch. They're okay. And they see the direction of at least government, as long as things don't go wildly out of control here. They're okay. So they want things to be a little more decentralized. So you just look at what would move this box up here a little bit. And the right is all right, but the left is not. So the left wants this box to be here. And in reality, that's what we all want, right? We want the government that doesn't hurt us, helps us when we need it, doesn't hurt us. That's what we want.
For the long term, yeah. Yeah,
over time, right? Ideally, you didn't, well, remember, ideally, we don't have a government at all. Everybody just gets along, right? Not gonna happen. So we got a government, where do we want it? Well, at least put it in the green zone so it doesn't hurt me, right? Now, this is 2 layers of the Q bar here, going from, remember on that one about power, that's concentrated power, not necessarily hurting, that just means concentrated.
We would need at this point basically like 2 graphs going through time with each, the right and the left, multiple points of perception and actual action. So this is why we're also having trouble visualizing it here.
Yes, yeah, no, this is where I need some computer guru. You put this into Q slopes and show how they move through time. It would It would be illustrative and beautiful too at the same time. Be very interesting. And you could. So what we want, what everybody wants, we want this box, and whoever you think is the bad guy, they're in the box here somewhere, left or right. Everybody's mad at someone, and they're in this box. So Google's in this box, Facebook's in this box, Amazon, everyone who has massive financial and political power over everyone is in this box. Okay, that's the model of the centralized power. Stop talking about government and everything. Just think of it in terms of power, and that kind of straightens you out, because government is a subset of, well, political culture and money. You get government. So what influences what? Well, right now you've got the tech companies have so much influence that the governments themselves are subject to the tech companies in lots of ways, and who knows how much and to what degree. It's really impossible to know to what degree they're influenced. You can't know that. There's no way to know. Well, there's a way to know. There's when you see tech companies doing things that people don't like and damaging their businesses, well, that's not right. That's too far. So you need to, that's the power. Stop talking about government. Talk about how is power exerted. So power is the ability to get people to do stuff. That's it. Think of it that way and nothing else. Then stop talking about government. Stop talking about,
Right.
I mean, don't talk, but I mean.
There are actually multiple methods of coercion as well. There is force, which is very immediate, very direct, and very high stakes, very high cost as well.
Yeah.
And there is remuneration, basically, which is sort of the libertarian or economical way of paying somebody to do something, providing an incentive for them.
Yeah.
And the right feels at ease with both of those things. And then there is gossip or rallying or shaming, basically using language to move people, and by changing their perception, making them go a certain direction.
Yeah.
Moral authority, basically. And so the left pretty much owns that as well. So that's sort of another.
If you break it down, and this is where you break it down, just IX and IP, there's just time and energy. That's it. So what kind of influence is there? There's money, there's violence, there's music, there's sounds, there's TV. Everything is IX. Everything that you perceive is IX. Well, who has control over what you see? Well, depends, right? Depends on partly on you and partly on whoever distributes the information that you consume. And if you don't have control over what's sent to you, well, then you don't have full control over how you're influenced. You don't have full control over yourself if you can't control what people show you. So that's the problem online, is the tech companies themselves govern what you see.
Is that actually one of the reasons why you were able to come up with this? Because as you have been explaining to me the background of you developing this, you told me that you never consume news, you don't really pay attention to what's happening on the larger scale. Maybe that's one of the accommodating factors in you being able to spend enough dedicated time to develop the math and then arrive at this point.
Yeah, well, I feel like the frog that just got boiling water thrown on top of him. That's what happened. I didn't realize the state, because I never interested that much, really. Like I said, the internet was a tool to me. And then I jumped on as a consumer and discovered that, hey, everybody, the water's boiling. And then I realized, well, yeah, a lot of people know this, but some people don't. And that was what was confusing to me, is that some people did not know that. And I couldn't comprehend that. But,
right.
You know, if someone tells you what you want to hear all the time, why would you disagree? Doesn't make sense, right?
So did we get through your presentation?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can do a dedicated, another conversation, maybe another forum or whatever, we would figure it out, about the specific like game A and game B conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's enough meat there to warrant its own conversation. So in that case, thanks for presenting this. I definitely enjoyed seeing it applied to actual multiple instances of real world questions and concerns. And I think I've got a better understanding now, even though I think I've got it before. So I'm very curious to see the response to this in the comments on YouTube, as well as on our social media. I'll put this up today, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, what I'd like, this is what I want to crowdsource this. Like I said, this is Linux for humans. So I want people to use the tool, and then, because you know, I've got my ideas about it, but I know people are going to use it, and they're going to be insights and things that people didn't think. And like I said, just take any word, throw it in there, and then move things around, see what comes into your head. So,
And yeah,
hero.
yeah.
Okay, well, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Come up with the words, and then, I'm very curious. I'd love to see screenshots, and then
Yes.
just to see what people come up with. It's going to be a
simply tell us, like, what are the call? What is the call to action here? What do you want people to do other than play with this?
Right here, physics.guru. That's the website, and I have this one here. I'd like people to type a word or a thought in there.
Right.
Move these around to match it. Take a screenshot and then post it around and see what comes out of it, because there's going to be.
I will ask that you put on the front page of this some kind of index to the different tools, because currently you would have to know the address bar to reach them. So if you can put that on the front page, then we can navigate to the different arrangement of the tools, the Q2 bar, the Q bar, those different ones.
Okay, yes, I'm working on that part.
Cool. So what are the current tools, so we can have it on screen? I'll link those in the description.
That one right there. Do you want me to send you a link to that, or?
No, just put in the address bar. You have multiple tools, right? And they have different addresses. So you have /Q2 bar, I think, .html, right?
Yes. Let me find these. Yeah, I don't have that already. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well,
just send it to me after, and I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, yeah. I will get that. I'll put that right on the index page so people have it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes. Good talking.
See you guys in the next one.